Holy Howard! This is going to be a fun
Jake,
one.
you still haven't explained to me when you say Holy Dinah. Like, what is that? I don't know what that is.
I think it was about Princess Diana, and that which is a part of a foreshadowing of where we're going to go, because we're going to bring some of England's greatest talent to today's show. But I want to talk about one other saying. There used to be a saying a man or a person without land is not a man. And now I say a person without a brand is not a brand. A company without a brand is not a brand.
So
I
guess
don't
what?
think, but
We have a brand. We have a brand now. Is that where you're going with this?
well, we have a brand. So what is we last time we did this big brand debut? So tell us one second.
B2B.
A counter voice about branding. Tell us about the brand launch.
Well, we've launched the brand. It's called B2B Mob with Jake and Howard. And what do we mean by mob? I think when we were discussing it, it was kind of like, insiders and information, but also in the sense of like a mob of people. Like there's a lot of voices in go to market that are often not heard, and so the noise can feel like a mob. But we launched with a funny AI generated picture um, that that may or may not encapsulate what we want for our brand voice. I think someone commented that they're afraid to leave comments now because we may injure them. We may give them a kneecap in the middle of the night. So maybe not the brand that we want to go for,
I think it's
but
good to have an
all in good
intimidating
fun.
factor. But
Yeah.
so I want to introduce. We did our little brand launch, and I think it's been a lot of fun. It creates a little bit of mystique. Also, how disheveled and unorganized we are. It's like a mob. It's not too organized. So I think that also is indicative of who our true character is. Stands true to our brand value. But there's somebody who I wanted to introduce, who I've worked with almost since their move to the country, and I want to introduce my dear friend Nadia Hitman in the house. Mrs. Brand, there she is.
Hitman
Hi,
in the
Nadia.
Nadia.
house. Hi.
Well, I can't believe we haven't met before. I've worked with
I
Jake
know.
also for quite a while, and
Wow, we have the scars.
it's really nice. Yeah, it's really nice to finally meet you.
Nadia,
Welcome.
let's hear a little bit. I know that you've worked in traditional, you've sold mixers and built brands on TV and all these things in the UK, and now you're the queen of Israel's high-tech brand scene. So give us a bit of a tour of tour de force of all your professional and personal.
Okay, so let's do it upside down. Okay, so you just did a really cool intro there, Jacob Levant. So I have lived and breathed consumer marketing for too many years that I care to say, but let's just say 10 plus 10 plus 5. And you'll get to something. Shock horror. Before online existed, before paid existed, before even social existed. And as you know, before front-facing video existed. And so we basically have lived and breathed this for a while now. And I tend to say not traditional. I think it's more strategic, right? Because I grew up in the world of FMCG, which is Unilever, P&G, all of those amazing household brands like General Mills as well. And it's more about thinking what's the audience and what are their pain points, and then where are they, what channels, and then how do you reach them? And then obviously, how do you make it scalable and efficient and growth minded? And that's like the school that I grew up in. And then I just transferred all of this blip into startups, B2C,
Wow.
and digital apps. And so now for the past 15 years, I've worked in B2C digital apps and love it.
Drop some
It's in your
names. Give us
face.
some. Show us a
Okay,
little of your brand porn,
some
as they say.
some of the other names, as you know, where we met was in Fring, which
Yeah.
was a very innovative mobile app on voice and video and messaging, basically WhatsApp and Skype before WhatsApp existed, and like amazing fun things like this. Also like a Yelp type recommendations like startup. And most recently, I, for the past 11 years, have been the VP brand marketing at Simply, which everyone knows now, the apps,
Oh yeah,
that's through
simply.
the scale. and now doing other consumer.
Wow, you are incredible. So those are the biggest brands, and you are fighting tough battles, and you've had way more fun than most of us B2B folks. So here, maybe just tell us about make us more jealous about some of the things that we would dare not do, but maybe we should start edging into.
Yeah.
What were some of the
I love that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I love
Okay,
that
so
kind of
like,
stuff,
yeah, like you're like, I think, doing yourselves a disservice though. You're saying like B2B is boring, and I don't think that's the case. I think that marketing is marketing. It's just different strategies. With consumer, I think the difference is you see the impact quicker, and it's up front in your face. And so some of the fun things in consumer is like just being one, just at the front line with the consumers, like building communities. That's been super fun. Like literally the community shaping the products, like really working together. In Simply, the community and the community of learners even shaped the rebrand. So like that wasn't trivial at all. What other fun things? Well,
Wait, so
obviously
you're saying,
go on.
I was gonna say, you're saying so that the community from Simply it was one of the main influences for the brand. Can you dig into that a little bit, just to understand that a little more?
Yeah. So basically, meaning that the consumers, the audience, shaped what the brand is. To be honest, everything is related to the brand, right? Even high performing creatives are part of the brand. But for example, the like recognizable color, shall we say, which is obviously one little pitsy part of a brand, is purple. That was driven by the scale of the apps, led by the consumers, and then that became the main like color. Another
So
example.
did you collect? Like, what's the process behind that? You collect feedback? Was it stuff that people left in reviews? Was there market research?
Everything. So like, even when we first started doing the brand, it was really like from discovery stage of listening to hundreds and hundreds of actual real consumer voices, from interviews, from focus groups, from reviews, the communities, and it's like really shaped by them.
I kind of feel like everything you've said sounds so familiar. Like, of course, we've all gone through a terrible branding process. We've all gone through this.
We all got the scars.
But we've heard it. But it's always interesting. I always find it interesting when we hear. Often when we hear from B2C brand, I'm always, okay, how do we adapt that to B2B? It sounds so like, of course, we should be speaking more to our customers, or even if they're not customers yet, just to try to understand the market, to really know what drives them. A lot of times branding projects happen, internal, right? I'm sure maybe we've all been part of that, where it's, a lot of executives and product and everyone giving their opinion, so to speak. And maybe you hire an outside consultant to speak to one or two customers. But that's not how it works in B2C. Like you said, you spoke to hundreds. If you're really trying to understand the market, I think B2B needs to learn how to do a little bit more of that, I think.
Right, and also the competition, because then that's how you know what the differentiation is. Because at the end of the day, it needs to be a brand or a product with a difference. But I think the common factor here is, yes, it needs to be audience driven, which makes, it's not like a moment for a marketeer. It shouldn't actually be a shocking moment for any discipline in the company. I don't think it's just marketeers that need to talk to the audience or the customers. Like everyone, you can learn a bunch, and also where you are within the competitive set. And so like these two things, and the other, I think, very clear thing here is it's product led. When it's product led, then that's with the growth in mind and the actual real needs, and it's based on something.
So that's then how do you avoid the trap of, like that famous Ford quote, like, I'm sure you know this, if we asked the people what they wanted, they'd want faster horses. How do you avoid that trap of, okay, our consumers are asking for this and we want to influence our product and our product? How do you get that product-led voice and what the consumers want, or reflect what the consumers need?
So
both in B2B and B2C, actually. So.
Right. I think, yeah, there's like no differentiation here between whether it's B2C or B2B. You're like listening to the user journey. What's going on? What's going on in the product? It doesn't matter if that's digital, online, physical. Like you're understanding from the product perspective what's actually going on as well, rather than that, and also that there's a real need. You know, like the famous thing of oh yeah, we because this is what we think, and you know, there's the target audience, and then there's the real audience, and so it needs to blend together.
So you must be really much more connected to the product, because oftentimes the product team is hearing through sales. But are you going to say that you're bringing the product much more forward into the conversation?
Everything.
And I mean, Howard, let's just talk a little bit of the product interventions and interactions your team has. Like, do you have a sense?
Well, yeah, we've heard. I think from Tal that the hottest role right now is product marketing.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense. It's connecting it. By the way, though, it's actually really interesting, which you might geek out at the same thing as well, because you're both in marketing. But there's often this tension between like product and marketing. And they're like, no, that's mine. No, that's mine. At the end of the day, just blow that out of the water. It's together. And when everything's intertwined, it works the best. Just like, for example, growth is not separate, I don't think, in my humble opinion. It's growth, which is performance metrics.
Yeah.
And then you have marketing, and you have product, and you have data. And it's this very much like intertwined everything together, where it's like successful. Like from a product marketing lens, the marketeer will think about what the motivations and the pain points are in a different way that the product person will think, okay, well, what's like going on, like first time user experience, the down the funnel. Yeah. They're both thinking about the same thing, but with a different lens.
Let's take this close to customer, and let's talk about the expression of it, because too often in some of our worlds we express in B2B into blogs and white papers and webinars, and I can assure you that is not what you are doing. And I don't think that the successful B2B companies are necessarily doing that. I'm just making fun, but I'm saying that the direction and the touch points you have are probably a little bit different than the standard weaponry, but they're also a little bit more costly. Like words, to create words and blogs is cheap, and a little bit of design. To create video, talk to us a little bit about how you take those insights and the thinking, I'm going to put together a commercial. You know, we've all shot $250,000 million commercials before. So talk about that transition from here to there. The bet is bigger. And it sounds like it's much more aesthetic and, conversations as opposed to, maybe go through that decision making of how we choose to make that fancy commercial, fund it with that type of performance, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so you just touched on another point of difference, which is for B2C more fun. I'm going to say that because I'm biased, but the creatives. This is fun. This whole world. Wow, there is like a whole world in itself. And so, for example, at Simply, we created an in-house creative team because no one knows the product and the audience better. And so I've started there on purpose from the cycle of a creative and creating the ads. And so it's understanding, okay, what's the goal? What do you need to achieve? Is it for performance? Because you need to grow, you need to reach different audiences. You're going on to different platforms. First of all, so why are you doing what you're doing? And then what is the audience? What do you know about them? What are their pain points? What are their motivators? What are their barriers? And then here's the product thing. Bring it back to the product as well. What's the reason to believe? Why are you going to take action? Because at the end of the day, even a brand ad, you need them to have an action, right? It's whether it's like a perception or to generate interest versus a performance ad, which is, install, go through the funnel, the first time user experience better be connected, so on and so forth. And so like that's the beginning of that stage. And then you have the brief, right? Which, is who the audience is, everything that we've just spoken about.
Yeah.
Now that's the easy part, I think, which needs to be strategic because it's coming from the growth goals and coming from a strategy, which is most likely marketing led. Then is the creation, and that's that fun stuff, right? Where you have really talented creatives, and it, depending on the platform and depending on the product, it could be video, it could be static, it could be images. And depending on where you are, for example, let's just take YouTube as an example.
Yeah.
Here, this is actually, by the way, even more challenging. So there you need to have a just in general, you need to have a fast creative cycle. So from like the brief, then to like concept ideation, and then, you then need to create it. So then the production, and then you put it out fast. That's the other thing. In this world, do it fast. Who cares if it's not a good ad? It's not going to
work,
scale.
take it down.
No one's going to see it. Doesn't matter. So just get it out, learn fast, and then iterate. And then it then goes back to the beginning of the creative cycle. But for YouTube, as an example, this is harder because you have like this 5 seconds where viewers can't skip. And so it can be called something like an upside down story where you need to put the hook and everything in 5 seconds, which means like put the product in as well, because you need to see the product. You need to see the product in use, but you can't go straight to the actual product in the first 1 second. You can show the product, but in terms of put the end outcome first, it's a bit like if you've gone on a date, you're like, oh, can I have a kiss? Like, you're not going to do that before you've said hello. So you need to go through that in 5 seconds, because the aim of it is not to create this amazing commercial. It's don't let them skip. Like, and that's a different mindset switch, for example, just on YouTube. And so there it's really about these types of best practices. And also I think another like difference with creatives, which I wonder whether it is the different in B2B, if you're thinking about the concept of a creative and what you need it to do. If you need it to be for performance, then, or even brand. And by the way, I don't actually think that there is so much of a separation, which actually is an interesting point. Is everything together. And when you're thinking about it, it's like, okay, so you optimize it on different channels to make sure that it works, i.e. TikTok is going to have a different type of style. And that's the same in B2B. No, you optimize your assets for the channel and the audience.
The audience. Sure. Yeah, I think the audience is probably the primary aspect, in my opinion, before channels. I think the channels are super important, obviously in B2C. B2B is a little bit different. Yes, the personas are on all the channels, right? And especially as, the generations come up and become more decision makers for many B2B products that are out there, the channel is important. But I think we need to get to understand the motivations for the audience. I think one of the things is maybe B2C is more fearless in their creative. Like you said, when you have 5 seconds to get someone's attention, you may need to do something extreme that might be a little bit off for a B2B, or it depends on certain industries, right?
I don't know, it depends on the brand, because then you need to make it into the brand tone of voice. Like, you're not going to be super edgy and controversial and go off brand if you are this specific, stiff, Again, it goes back to the product, the audience, And
You
your
know,
channel,
it's a good
Well, that's the
comment.
thing. I think the balance, a lot of the conversation in B2B is like, yes, there's this perception, and maybe sometimes even an assumption that, yeah, let's say banking or these,
but
we
they're
talk about this, we
people.
go to
They're people.
exactly. So we go to a conference and you see a persona and you're like, the guy with the suit and the white hair, or the woman in the business attire, that is who you need to go
But they're
speak
people,
to.
aren't they? Right, Howard? Like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
no one likes boring. Everyone's gonna snooze and like fall off like
Or
a
at
I'm
least what
going
cliff.
to
they're
challenge.
interested in,
I'm going
right?
to challenge. I'm
You're
challenging.
gonna
So I
challenge
will
that?
say that
Go on,
because
challenge.
but the answer is that you start with a free app and then you try and sell them into a $20 app. I don't know. Whereas we're selling $1 million worth of product that has to work with infallibility and a trust factor, and you're a foreign company with it, yet all these other baggages. And so we associate the risks of the deal with way up at the top of the funnel with how they meet us and interact with our brand. So I mean, I'm trying to think about how I can rewrite an email to a banker in a sassy way that won't damage the rest of the cycle.
But does it need to
Do you
be
think?
sassy?
Yeah, I
Like,
was gonna say, Jake, do you think baseball is risky, or golf is risky, or football is risky? I mean, sports is usually a good go-to, maybe,
No, I
for
don't.
a
I'm
certain
just
persona.
thinking about like if I were to make those 5-second clips on a YouTube ad, I would have to be pretty aggressive in order to get my message out. And then I'm like, well, how then? I don't have a YouTube channel that I would promote necessarily, so I would use my databases or my LinkedIn's. And I'm like, how do I convert that into those
I don't
channels?
think it's about being aggressive or boring or not boring or more fun. I think at the end of the day, if we're using the analogy of YouTube, a YouTube ad, and you've got 5 seconds, which actually is the equivalent of any type of sale, right? It's probably actually 3 seconds. It's like, I like to use the analogy, you're stuck in a lift, yalla go. And so you need to understand the audience, you need to understand who you're talking to, and you adapt according to this and where you are.
You also have to understand, no one wants the ad. They're there for something else.
Right, and that's why for example, specifically for YouTube, to optimize for that channel, it's about the upside down hook, the upside down story.
Yeah.
Like, think about it, it's like it's like a different form of TV. It's just right there with a direct link, and here's the thing, Jake, now using your analogy of, but it's expensive product and you need them, that it's like $1 million like enterprise, and there is what you're saying, if I'm reading between the lines, is there's more risk of failure, but is there really more risk for failure? You need a quality user to go down the funnel and to be quality in whatever you've defined it. And so there you will optimize for not the install, if we're talking about mobile app world, but or the sale, but you're actually optimizing for the end outcome of what you need them to do, whether that's a sub or take the account. Wow, I'm showing.
I love the challenge, and I want to say that
B2B person.
I want to say that wouldn't it be fun to have a short working session where we take whatever it is, Howard, if you're doing a webinar or something, like it's some sort of thing, saying, you know what, scrap the templates, Nadia and your creative team, work on it. Wouldn't that be a fun workout, and see if we get a way better result or a different result?
Yeah, it's not just that. I think we just went to we spoke about last time with the creatives and conversions event that recently happened. Nadia, I don't know if you were there.
I'm familiar with it. It's an awesome conference.
Yeah, it was, but they do talk a lot about brand, and there's definitely stronger B2C presence than a B2B. But I think that the takeaway is, there's a lot of creative energy, and how do you add that to B2B? There are some good examples in B2B too. But maybe it is taking a risk, right? So I came back from that conference, and me and Gabby, we had some great ideas, and some of them a little bit too far out, but some of them we did next day, and launched a new ad set the next day with some insights. So
it's like a quick turn. I think that's the key. You want to get things out fast, ship fast, learn, and iterate.
Especially with AI, right?
Yeah, so
The AI is a
that's the
great
point.
tool.
So that's what I was going to say now. Okay, AI, obviously everyone's talking about AI. It's like the hot chick of technology at the moment. I really am waiting for the day where it's just this is it. This is part of it because this is the technology. And so like AI makes things way much more accelerated. Think about like VO. You can ship things within like an hour. You don't need a
Yeah.
full-scale production. And if UGC is something that really works, user-generated content,
Oh yeah.
wow, you have this casting. You
I've
don't
seen
need,
that. That was amazing. What
but
VO could do with UGC.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a hazard, right? A hazard or a caveat, which is AI now is, yes, accelerating all fronts on all disciplines, and
Mhm.
it's super cool. And I'm so grateful to be alive today and all of that, yada, yada. But it doesn't replace the need for good storytelling, understanding your audience.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day,
Yeah,
you're going
for
to still
sure.
make bad content if it's bad content.
I have to tell you, Nadia, you've given a push. And in this session, here's what I can tell. If you are a business buyer, I have some great news for you. That because of this conversation with our dear friend Nadia Hitman, you're going to see some really spicy and targeted communications coming to you. So that's our promise.
I think some of the things, it's not just the ads, like the ads are super important as well, but we're seeing as a trend, what's the equivalent of UGC in B2B? I think it's the thought leadership stuff that we're
Yes,
seeing. People talking,
testimonials.
the talking heads, the testimonials, the B2B buyer is looking, they might not be looking for entertainment necessarily, although everyone wants to be entertained, but they're looking for information. And if you become the source of information, I think that might be the analog. So how do we get thought leadership to be as creative, or to bring some of the creative? That's a challenge that I'm thinking about really recently, is where do we bridge that? Those like what drives the audience to take action on something that's creative, but also like how do we translate to a thought leadership that will also drive a similar action?
Yeah, I think you just hit on a really important point. At the end of the day, you need people to do an action. Doesn't matter what that
Yeah.
action is. So what's going to make them do that? And so if the equivalent of UGC in B2B, which maybe it is actually UGC, but it's just in a different format. Is it the actual customers? Is it testimonials?
Case studies and testimonials.
Case studies, social proofing, all of those things.
We have to, the application of this is significant. I see that this is a catalyst, and I hope that we, myself included, take this and do better work. Nadia, I hope you don't mind if I share your phone number wide, because everyone's going to call you for a spark of your genius.
The number is beep, beep, beep.
Oh, what? I didn't get that.
A big shout out to our dearest friend Nadia. Thank you for inspiring, and thank you for making my YouTube reel much more engaging, and for teaching me piano. I have to curve my fingers a little bit better, and soon guitar and all these other things. So Nadia, great to see you. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you.
Lovely
thank
to
you, Nadia.
see you
It's really
both.
nice to meet you.
And
really
last
great.
thing, don't be boring.
Mhm.
Bye.
Yes, I think that's the great takeaway. Oh, it just dropped off.
I have to say that was like a last, like a,
I don't think
just, that's good. We should have that placard over our computers. Don't be boring.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think it's important because again, I think I mentioned it. It's like make some of these assumptions in B2B where it's like everyone's interested in a white paper or a webinar on some topic. Yes, because I think traditionally people at work have problems, and it's always about making them a hero, that they want to solve that problem. That is the traditional thinking. But consumer behavior has changed, right? B2C buying, everyone is buying something. The fact that, maybe in their work life, they're not impulsive buyers, and they see something online and they want to buy something on Amazon, but they are exposed to information. We're trying to build awareness, and we're trying to obviously sell multi-million-dollar deals. So I think the challenge is bridging that gap of, yes, we're not selling products on Amazon, we're selling real real solutions that solve problems, but there's probably something in between, something that motivates a business person to, I think, and I was just speaking about this with Gabby, like at least grab their attention, right? We talk about awareness as like a funnel stage, but you know, if you think of old sales methodology, there is AIDA, right, in the famous Glengarry Ross movie. It starts with attention. Do I have your attention? Right. That should be number one. And that's what I think, that's what B2C starts with. B2C starts with, do I have your attention for first and foremost, so that I can stuff this product down your throat? But no, just kidding. But,
don't be boring.
Don't be boring. But yeah,
you don't be boring, and you don't be hard sales.
Yeah, the connection is don't be boring, but the flip of that is, how do I get your attention? But,
Howard, thank you for another fun and engaging discussion.
Yeah, this was amazing. Great chat. Great guest to have. I love having discussions on the B2C front. Even though we're the B2B mob, we should bring more people in from the B2C mob as well in our chats. The competing families. Although it's not like a competing family. It's like we got our own territory and we can learn from each other.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to have those meetups, whether the camera's with us or not, but maybe we can invite Nadia either to another session or to another kiddish club with some herring. To be continued. All right.
Talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.